The Sphinx standing in front of the pyramids of Giza still raises questions and bewilderment, and it does not stop provoking scientists to search behind it, and clearing the mystery of its mysteries, in light of the emergence of many theories that say that the information approved about the age of the Sphinx and who built it is information inaccurate. The American geologist Robert Shok, from Boston University, is one of those who believe that the age of the Great Sphinx is much older than the age that traditional Egyptologists currently believe, which is 2,500 years BC. He also refuses to say that King Khafre He is the builder of that statue, which is still the largest statue in the world made of one stone. So what is the theory presented by Shok? Through his official website, Shok says that he traveled in 1990 to Cairo with the sole purpose of testing the Sphinx geologically and determining its exact age, pointing out that he believed at the beginning that geological tests would prove what was common about the age of the Sphinx in science, Egyptology, but later it was discovered that the saying, that the age of the Sphinx dates back to 2,500 years BC, does not match the geological evidence, which is the evidence that Forks took from the body of the Sphinx, and from the walls of the large basin in which the statue resides. American geologist, Robert Shok of Boston University. And the American scientist confirms that he found erosion factors in the body of the Sphinx, which can only occur through rainwater falling, or the flow of water, but the area where the statue currently sits on the edge of the desert has been extremely dry for the last 5,000 years. Where did that water come from? Shok summarizes the conclusion of his theory, by saying that the geological research he conducted indicates that the age of the Sphinx dates back to at least 5,000 years BC, i.e., before the beginning of the dynastic era, and in other recent research he conducted, he concluded that the statue had the carving is at the end of the last ice age. That is, about 10,000 years BC, which is the time when the climate was significantly different and contained a lot of rain that could leave the signs of erosion factors that are present on the statue now. An image showing erosion factors on the body of the Sphinx, which Shok believes was caused by heavy rain. And he adds, Shok, on his website, by saying that many rejected his theory and told him that the Sphinx could not be of this age that he is talking about, and the reason is simply because the head of the Sphinx is carved in the shape of the kings of the dynastic era, which did not begin until BC. Only 3,000 years. Shok responds to this argument by saying, in fact, if we look at the current head of the Sphinx, we can clearly note that the head is very small compared to the body, so it is clear that the current head was not the original head of the statue. Believing that the original head of the statue was exposed to many factors, the erosion of its features, which necessitated the resculpting of the head at a later time, specifically during the dynastic era, which is the main reason behind the small size of the head of the Sphinx compared to its entire body. According to him, adding that there is evidence indicating that the Great Sphinx was not the Sphinx from the beginning, but rather it may have been with a lion's head, or more accurately the head of a female lion, as indicated by some new research. Image showing the small size of the Sphinx's head in comparison to its body. In order for Shok to prove his theory related to the age of the Sphinx, he made a test about the floor on which the statue is located, to measure the depth of the gaps, below the surface, by means of sound waves, saying that he discovered that there are very deep gaps, below the floor of the statue, which is what it means that there is a lot of water that has been flowing across this surface for many years until it created these voids, which cannot happen in a period of time less than 5,000 years BC. An imaginary drawing of the original shape of the Sphinx, before it was affected by erosion and resculpted. And he continues that during the studies he was doing, he discovered the presence of a cavity, or a chamber, under the left palm, of the Sphinx, where some believe that this cavity may be the Hall of Records that some recent researches refer to, which are believed to be it carries a lot of information about the ancient Egyptian civilization. He also suggested, after some experiments, that there would be a ground tunnel under the body of the Sphinx, along the length of the statue. And the geologist concludes, by saying, when I put forward my theory in the early 90s of the last century, I faced great rejection by Egyptologists, who asked me, what is your evidence for the existence of that early civilization that preceded the dynastic era? There can be no civilization, with the strength with which it can build a statue, the size of the Sphinx at this early time, in any region of the world, adding that evidence has recently been discovered of the existence of advanced civilizations dating back 12,000 years, from now, which means that such civilizations existed, at this early time in the life of the civilized world, but due to the distance of time, their traces have largely disappeared and it is difficult to find them easily, pointing out that he was recently able to prove my theory in the book The Forgotten Civilization. Comparisons between a number of statues of the Great Sphinx, showing consistency between the size of the head and the body, with the exception of the original statue in Giza. And through his website, Shok recently announced that he is going to visit Egypt, during the summer of 2019, with the aim of completing his research, and obtaining more evidence that proves his theory, related to the age of the Sphinx.